too. So you may be a woman who owns a business, you may be a woman who runs a business, or a woman who works in business. Regardless, we as women mean business, right? And I'm hoping that it's just not me, but do you sometimes feel like everything and everyone is just pulling for your attention and your time? I see some hands going up. And what we tend to do is we tend to put everything else and everyone else first, and we don't consider ourselves. We don't invest time in ourselves. And that includes our health. Time, you might be asking me, Nicole, what is time? I don't have time to do one more thing. I don't have time to take care of my health. Time is one of those things that we never seem to have enough of, right? But it's interesting that we create time, or we make time for the things that we think are important, whether that's a family commitment or maybe a work obligation. But tonight I want you to think about your health a little differently and how your health is connected to your wealth. Because if you don't pay attention to your health more, then there's a possibility that you may reduce or even eliminate the opportunity to accumulate wealth. Now, can you run a business from a hospital bed, a multi-million-dollar business? Maybe. But the question is, do you want to? And I don't think you want to. So we need to think about our health a little differently. So right now, what I'd like you to do is to think about something that you would like to change about your health. Just get it in your mind. You got it? Just one thing. We talk about it as your well-being, but we really should think about it as being well. Because if you're taking care of yourself and you are being well, then now you're in a better position to not only take care of your family, but to take care of your business. So whatever that thing is that you have in your mind, it's going to require some type of change. There we go. We are surrounded by change. Change is everywhere. Just think about it. Time changes. The seasons change. As a matter of fact, next week the seasons are changing. We're crossing over to summer. Our looks change. And ladies, I'm not even going to talk about the change. We just want to skip right on over that. But you understand. You certainly understand. So change, interestingly enough, is an equal opportunity distributor. It doesn't discriminate. Change doesn't care about your race, your gender, your income level. Change doesn't care what you know or who you know. Change is inevitable. And as a lifestyle change coach, I believe that we all know that there's something that we need to change. But especially as women, I think we can sometimes just be overloaded with the amount of change that we need to make, that we just go to the default and just opt to do nothing. But as women on the rise, and Pamela shared a little bit in my introduction, I'm a former educator, so I love words. I love going into the dictionary. So as women on the rise, we need to, I can't even see it, return to life. That lets you know I wear glasses. These are definitions of the word rise. We need to return to life. We need to increase in value. We need to soar, and we need to emerge. And you have to take care of your health to do all of those things. So tonight I'd like to share some information with you so that you can be more proactive instead of being reactive about your health. Are you ready to take the journey? Wonderful. Well, let's start with one of my favorite things, stress. I love this good part. And the zebra is saying, I think it's stress as it loses its stripes. So stress is a small word with huge implications. It is showing up unannounced and uninvited, and is wreaking havoc in our personal and professional lives. Stress is everywhere. You can try to go around it, you can try to go over, you can try to go under it, but it's not going to work because stress is everywhere. We experience stress with our children. We experience stress with our husbands and our husbands. You get that. We experience stress. It's the money, it's the traffic, it's the boss, it's the coworker. Stress is literally everywhere. And unfortunately, stress has become an epidemic, and it's really become the norm. Raise your hand if you've dealt with some stress in the last week. Hands down. In the last 24 hours. Hands down. In the last 24 minutes. Okay, so I see people with hands up, legs up, all that kind of stuff. Now this time I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. How many of you have created some stress? Just blink your eyes and it'll just be between me and you, no problem. We've done our share of creating stress. So let's break it down a little bit. What exactly is stress? Stress is your body's reaction to change that causes you to make some type of adjustment. So stress may happen in the moment as something is happening right then, but you can also deal with stress with just dealing with a thought. We actually are biologically wired, we are rigged to have an automatic response to stress. Stress exists to really help us survive. But the problem is your body can't tell the difference between a life-threatening situation like you're being chased by a bear in Philadelphia. Have you been following that about the bear that just keeps showing up?
Oh,
it can't tell the difference between something that is life-threatening at the moment or a perceived threat, like you're dealing with criticism from a boss or a family member or even a friend. Your body tends to react the same way. The problem with stress is that it impacts your body. You know, so tonight I'm not talking about those innate, built-in responses to stress, where you jump when you're being startled. That's not the stress I'm talking about tonight. I'm talking about that chronic, ongoing, nonstop stress that may keep your body running at high gear for days or even weeks. It's that chronic stress that can lead to some type of a chronic health condition. It can weaken your immune system so that it doesn't function optimally. And those chronic health conditions are heart disease, diabetes, depression, anxiety, obesity, and even cancer. So stress is definitely taking a toll on our bodies. Stress will show up in lots of places. And when I talk about health, most people tend to think physical health. But health is so much more than that. It's your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, occupational, and financial health. And I think we make the mistake of looking at those areas of our lives in isolation and not realize how interconnected they really are. So follow me with this example. You have a stressful day at work, something happens, let's say around 9 o'clock. You get home from work, you walk through the door, and the cookie jar calls your name. Now, do you just eat one cookie? No. Heck no. You finish off the entire bag. So stress is impacting you physically because now you're eating. And you may say to yourself, well, when I go to the gym tomorrow, I'll just work out a little more. That's what you say, but chances are you're really not going to do that. But somebody else doesn't even go home after work. After their stressful event at 9 o'clock in the morning, they make a beeline to the mall. And they engage in some retail therapy. So now stress is impacting their finances. And guess what's going to happen when that bill arrives the next month? The stress cycle starts all over again. Someone else, the very next person who walks through the door, they snap. Because stress is now impacting them emotionally. And lastly, you get into bed at night and you can't sleep because you're still rehearsing what happened at 9 o'clock that morning, and now you're tossing and turning. So stress can impact many areas of your lives, and we need to take that into consideration. Those things that are happening, those people in your circle that are stressing you out, they're called stressors. And I just want you to know that what's stressful to one person may not be stressful to someone else. What's stressful to you today, like that itsy bitsy spider, 3 weeks from now, you might be okay with killing that spider. So our stressors can change. But if you're able to identify your stressors and understanding how you respond to stress, that gives you an opportunity to be proactive about how you're going to handle it. So if you know that you stress eat, because a lot of times it's not about being hungry, it's about wanting to crunch, wanting that sugary taste or that salty taste, then maybe you need to have more apple slices, carrot sticks, celery sticks at home and in the office. If you're a person that goes to the mall, you may say, I'm just going to walk around, but 9 times out of 10 you end up with a couple of bags. Maybe you just need to keep your sneakers in the car and go to the park and walk instead. So we need to be mindful of our stressors and how we respond to those stressors. But as a former educator, I'm not only concerned about the stress levels of adults, I'm concerned about how stress is impacting future generations. Our children, our teens, and our young adults are dealing with more stress than ever before. And studies are showing that when they're dealing with stress at young ages, it increased their risk to be diagnosed with a chronic health condition. Stress is also impacting unborn generations because women who are dealing with stress have issues with infertility, and it may take them longer time to become pregnant. So stress is a huge problem. So what if I told you that there's something that you could do to not only 1, reduce stress in your life, 2, improve the quality of your life, and 3, reduce your risk of being diagnosed with a chronic health condition? Might you be interested?
Yes.
Wonderful. There is something that you can do. You can make lifestyle changes. So let's start with exercising. It is so easy these days just to be sedentary. And so I'm suggesting that instead of getting comfortable on the couch, that you get up and you get moving. Now, I'm not saying that you have to become a gym rat and spend a whole lot of money on clothing or equipment. What I'm suggesting is that you find activities that you enjoy to increase the likelihood that you'll continue with them later. And you have so many things from which to choose. There's Zumba, there's swimming, there's cycling. And I'll let you in on a secret. You can take the stairs instead of the elevator. How about that?
Or you can buy a dog.
Or you can buy a dog. So the recommendation is that adults engage in 150 minutes of activity each week. But you don't have to do that all at one time. Please don't do that at one time. And you can break it down. How about 30 minutes, 5 days a week? That sounds more doable. And those 30 minutes don't have to be back to back. You can take a 10-minute walk in the morning, a 10-minute walk at lunchtime, a 10-minute walk at dinner time. You've done your 30 minutes. It's easy to do. But before you start anything, make sure you have a conversation with your physician. And while you're having that conversation with your physician, make sure you find out your numbers. Numbers like blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol levels. Find out the screenings and immunizations that are recommended at various ages. The other conversation I strongly suggest you have, and I heard one of the earlier sponsors mention it, is that we need to have conversations with our families about our medical health. Just like we're not talking about how we want, our celebration of life to be held, we need to be having conversations about family medical history. Do your research, find out if there are any genetic things that you need to talk about, and then share that information with your family members. So exercise is, again, very important. Sleep is equally important. And guess what? We have people here from the Sleep Center, so this is great. It all worked together. So when we hear the topic of sleep, we normally think that sleep is something for babies and little people. That is so far from the truth. Sleep is equally important for adults. It is suggested that adults get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Many adults don't get that much sleep. And just an extra 60 to 90 minutes each night can make a difference. There are studies that are linking sleep deprivation, or actually too much sleep. If you're getting less than 5 hours of sleep or more than 9 hours of sleep, there are correlations between those sleep patterns and weight gain. So figure out how to get a good night's sleep. And just like we may set up routines for our children, whether it's a bedtime story, and then they know no more water, no more bathroom after that, you may want to think about that for yourself. Set up a routine, whether you're doing aromatherapy, whether you're doing essential oils, whether that means taking a warm shower or a nice bubble bath or some soothing music. Find a routine that works for you so that you are consistently getting enough sleep. Eat healthy. I love this. You can see she's got the fruits and vegetables in there, but that is not what she selected. So what we're eating is very important. And it's true, you are what you eat. Unfortunately, many people are living to eat instead of eating to live. And we should be eating as if our lives depend upon it, because the truth is, it really does. And there are easy swaps that you can make. So you can swap out packaged foods for fresh fruits and vegetables. You can swap out fried foods for those that are baked and broiled. And every now and then, you can still have a special treat. When we talk about taking care of ourselves, sometimes it's hard, especially as women who are just on the go and we are needed by so many people. I'd like you to think about your time differently. The next time that you see time, see the me in your time. And understand that the decisions that you make or fail to make have a direct impact on your quality of life. One of my favorite books is called, it's about this big, it's called The Little Book of Stress by Dr. David Rosen. And one of the things that he says that I just hold on to, if it helps you, don't think about it as me first or me only. Think about it as me too. We give and give to so many people. We need to give back to ourselves so again, we can come back to our families refreshed, come back to our businesses refreshed as well. So when you talk about your time, the changes that you need to make are going to require time. And change is not comfortable, but it's necessary for growth and development. Change is difficult, but not changing can be fatal. We have to make time. And what's interesting about time is that time is unlike your cell phone service provider. You don't get any rollover minutes. Time is unlike many timeshare companies. You can't bank it for later use. Unlike tax time, there are no extensions. Unlike game time at the ballpark, there are no extra innings. When time is gone, it's gone. The bad news is that time really does fly. The good news is that you're the pilot. So women on the rise, I'm encouraging you today to reduce your stress, to include exercise, to sleep well, and to eat healthy. And here's another definition I found of the word rise. It means to uplift oneself to meet a challenge. Challenge requires change. And if you've ever noticed it before, that change is on both sides of your challenge. So tonight, I hope that I've encouraged you to accept the challenge to change, to allow change to make you better and not bitter. I hope tonight that you will do something today that your future will thank you for tomorrow. I hope that you've been inspired to make a change.